everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vidi. For those of you who are new here, I have Chadro with me right now. He has nothing to do with this vlog. As you all know, it's another month, so another book vlog. What? We had the Amazon book sale and you know I took advantage of that. I went ahead and ordered a few books that I had in my TBR to just kind of pick and chose which ones I can buy. Anything that was 50% off or more that I had on my TBR. Only in my TBR did I buy. We got some book mail and I thought let's start off this vlog with a little bit of book mail first of all. So we're gonna go ahead and open it. I'm so excited! I think Chadro's more excited than me. Starting off with the first book, I got The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So I actually have listened to this on audiobook maybe a few months ago and I actually really liked it. A lot of people have a hit or miss with this book, but I genuinely liked listening to it. So I decided I was going to stop listening after the first book and then I was just going to read it once I was done with Throne of Glass, but then I forgot to buy it. So now I'm going to read it after I'm done with The Court of Thorn and Roses. So this won't be part of my May TBR, but it is going to be read. So that's the first book, which means I had to get the second book of the series, which is The Wicked King. And this is why I don't order books. It's slightly folded and that kind of like pisses me off a little. The next book I got is King of Wrath by Anna Huang. I actually have also read this book. I didn't realize I read this book already until I was looking through my Goodreads. I just can't remember what it's about. I remember the Twisted series very vividly and I remember I stopped reading this series because it just felt like a copy of and paste from the Twisted series. But it's been so long since I read these books, like I think maybe a year or two since I read these books. So I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to pick up the King of Sins series instead, because I remember that was one of the reasons why I rated this book so low, because it just felt like a copy and paste right after reading the Twisted series. So I'm going to reread this book. I don't know if this is going to be part of my May TBR. I still gotta decide. I will decide in the next clip. You'll see about this. And so I loved Abby Jimenez. Like I think she might start becoming one of my top favorite authors. I do have a bone to pick with some of the protagonists sometimes, but Abby Jimenez gives me all the feels. So I got Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and this one's definitely going to be part of my May TBR. And I said May, I keep saying that. My June TBR. Another author that I've been reading is Emily Henry. So I got Beach Read by Emily Henry, and this once again is going to be part of my June TBR. Beach Reads is just such a summer book and I'm getting ready for those summer vibes and I've been wanting to read more summery books. What better option than a book that takes place in the beach? The next book I got is something that has been in my TBR for a while, and this is another book that I actually have listened to, and that is Crescent City by Sarah J Maas. And I snatched this book real quick on Amazon because I believe it was like 50% off. So it's usually $19 and I got it for like $8 or something like that. Oh my god, this is huge. Wait, is this as big as Kingdom? How big are the other ones? This is a commitment. This is like a whole ass commitment. 799 pages in total. I'm gonna take a break before jumping onto Crescent City, but I got House of Earth and Blood. I said Crescent City, huh? I meant House of Earth and Blood. I technically can start on the second book, which is House of Sky and Breath, but I'm gonna just reread it because I vaguely remember what happens. So these are definitely not gonna be part of my June TBR. I probably will pick these up closer like in the fall season. I don't know. It just gives me more like fall winter vibes for some reason. And then my next book that I got is a book that I have been saying I'm going to get and I keep putting it down, and I finally got it, and that is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This has been in my TBR for like a year now and I keep saying I'm going to get it, but I end up not getting it. I'm going to read it in June instead, so then by July when the second book comes out, I already know what just happened. I'm also going to get the novella so I can read it in June as well. It's going to be part of my TBR. So then by July I'm all caught up and I can read the third book, which is, I have no idea what's the third book actually. Anyway, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. So this is going to be part of my June TBR. And then the last book I got is another one that has been in my TBR, and I haven't read it just because I knew as soon as I finished the first book, I just knew where the second book was going to lead, and I knew it was going to lead in a big cliffhanger. And so I ordered it, not because I'm going to read it right now, but because it was half off. And I'm just like, I'll just get it now to get it out of the way. So I'm going to read it possibly in December or in January. And that is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I pre-ordered Onyx Storm and it was like a special edition. So I will be getting that in the mail in January. So I'll probably read this in January or December. So in total, I got all of these books right here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 books. Like I said, I'm not reading all these 9 books this upcoming month. These I know are going to be part of my June TBR. Anyway, this video is getting way too long for just a book haul, book mail. So this is gonna be a pretty long wrap up if I say so myself. Hi, I've cut my hair. It is short. I was gonna make a whole video about it, but I decided against it. So here is a quick introduction of what I look like now with my hair short. Do I love it? Yes. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. Y'all are the first basically to see me with my hair this short. I have not shown anyone. Anyway, we're going to Barnes & Noble to pick up a few books. This is the outfit. It's nice and warm today. We are going to go to a coffee shop as I usually do for my date with myself, my little book dates. That's what I like to call them. And then when I get back, we'll do a quick book haul and just some stats analysis, and you'll get to see the rest of the video. Let's go.
Took one step out the door, wish I'd taken before. I can't make amends with those who won't make good friends. Took one look at the car, felt like looking at a scar. I can't play pretend with those who play the victim. I can't make you love me right, and I don't want what ruins my nights. You ruin my nights. You ruin my nights. Never thought I'd go to hate, doing things with grace. It's turned me to stone. Not being
Oh, am I pissed or what? It is the next day. I actually just got back home from the coffee shop. I had decided, hey, I'm going to go to a coffee shop as a change of scenery so I can get some editing done and post this video by Monday. So I go, I edit most of the vlog that y'all just saw, and then realize while I'm editing this portion of my book haul that the whole audio is corrupted. Everything was corrupted. I could not salvage any of it, and now I have to refilm everything. So we'll start off with the books I got at Barnes & Noble first of all. This is possibly the smallest Barnes & Noble book haul I've had in a while. I really wasn't expecting to buy much. So the first book that I got is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. So this is going to be part of the book club I am in. First of all, I did not know Christina Lauren were two people, and it was just a pen name for Christina Hobbs and Lauren Billings. Like, I did not know that. And then second of all, y'all, look at this dust jacket. It's kind of cute from the inside too. High hopes for this book. I actually did want to read this month, so even if I did not have it for my book club, I was planning to read it this month. Just the cover itself feels very summer, and I am getting ready for those summer vibes, so I'm very excited to read this. Then the next book that we're reading for that same book club is This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. This is my first time reading a book of this author. I'm reading it because of my book club, but it wasn't really in my TBR because I've heard such mixed reviews for the previous 2 books of this author. I just never was really interested, but like I said, it's part of my book club. It says summer, so I'm hoping it gives all the summer vibes. We'll give it a try. And then the last book I got at Barnes & Noble is actually the novella Powerful by Lauren Roberts. This is from the Powerless series. I think this is the cutest little book ever. Even if it does kind of annoy me that this is what it's going to look like on my bookshelf, I made peace with the fact that my bookshelves are not going to look aesthetically pleasing. I kind of like the chaotic look of bookshelves. They feel more like a library, so I'm going to learn to live with this. And so to continue with my June TBR, as you saw, I'm going to read Heartless by Lauren Roberts. I'll be reading this in June, so then I can read the second book in July. Very excited. I'm also going to be reading Beach Read by Emily Henry, another very much summer vibes. I am here for those summer vibe of books. The next book, part of my June TBR, is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. And I actually just started reading this yesterday, so Abby Jimenez is slowly starting to become my favorite author. I just started this book and I am loving it already. I don't know, it's just so cute. I love these books. I'm so excited to read this. And then the last book for my June TBR will be A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. These are my June TBR books. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books. Technically 2 novellas. So I would say 6 books if you count Powerful and A Court of Frost and Starlight as 1 book. This is what I'm going to be reading. Like I said, a lot of romance books. If I have time and I feel like all the books are blending in together, I might pick up something on my Kindle, something a little bit more different. But at least for now, I was a little bit underwhelmed and overwhelmed at Barnes & Noble. I did not know what to pick. I wasn't sure what I wanted to read. I wanted to read like a summer cabin kind of mystery horror thriller, and I just was not prepared to look for something like that. I didn't have anything in my TBR like that. Any recommendations? Feel free to send them over because I might still be looking for something like that in July. And so those were my June TBR books. Moving on to my May reading wrap up portion of the video. So first, I'm going to give y'all a little bit of statistics of what I read. In total, I read 8 books. I read 2 thrillers, 3 contemporary romances, 1 fantasy romance, 1 young adult romance, and 1 sci-fi dystopian novel. In total, I read about 3,652 pages. Out of the 8 books, 7 of them were physical, while 1 of them was on my Kindle. So let's get started with the book reviews. I'm going to quickly review these 6 books, starting off with The Teacher. This was the first book I read for May. This is a thriller book by Frida McFadden. For this book, I definitely felt weird. It was icky, it was uncomfortable. It made me want to shower in rainbows and butterflies. There was just a lot of shock value to it. That aside, I felt like this book could have been a little bit better. I felt like it was really cheesy. The plot was just super predictable. There was a plot twist that felt very unnecessary, but I will give it credit where credit is due. The last bit of the book, the epilogue, that's what saved it a little bit from being completely a 2-star. So The Teacher for me is going to be a 2.5 out of 5. And then triggers for that book, there is a student-teacher relationship, there is an age gap and an inappropriate age gap, and then there's also violence and other stuff. So definitely look up more detailed triggers to make sure if you're okay with reading that kind of book, because it is quite triggering. The next book I read is Funny Story by Emily Henry. So this is a rom-com, and this book made me feel hearts and butterflies, and it was really cute. It was very, very engaging from the very beginning. It was just maybe towards the middle where I got a little bit bored. I was saying that it didn't bore me, but no, now reflecting back to it, I did get a little bit bored. It did drag a little, and I was just kind of like, a little bit over it, but it was a pretty good book. The banter in this book was flawless. I loved the banter. Miles reminded me so much of Nick, like so much of Nick from New Girl, and that was just at the beginning. Eventually Miles became his own character, and it was pretty good. So I did enjoy Funny Story, so this is going to be a 4 out of 5. And then the book I read after that was Morning Star by Pierce Brown. This is the 3rd book to the Red Rising series. This was chaos in a book. This book took me for a roller coaster. It was so chaotic. There was so much happening. There was so many politics. There was war. There was deceit. There was betrayal. There was so much of everything, and it was so good. I could not put it down. I really enjoyed this book. If you are planning to read the Red Rising series, or if you're thinking about reading it, I would recommend it. It did start off as a trilogy. I'm personally going to stop after the 3rd book because it does end end in a somewhat satisfying ending. I don't feel like there's a need to continue on to the next books in the series, but if you want to continue, you can. I will eventually pick it up again, but at least for now, I'm going to take a break from the Red Rising series. But it is a really good book. There was some parts where I was so shocked and I was just like, oh my god. There was a point where I got really upset where I'm just like,
if this is going the way I think it might go, I'm not going to continue reading the series.
and that's not what happened at all. It actually completely went the whole opposite way that I thought it was gonna go, and it always kept me on my toes. Morningstar, I'm going to rate it a 5 out of 5. This was possibly the best book from the first 3 books of the series. I really enjoyed it. Next, I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This book, I think, officially made me an Abby Jimenez fan, even though I've only read 2 books of hers. But Part of Your World is the first book of the Part of Your World series. Just for the Summer is the 3rd book, so I'm actually reading them backwards in a way. Part of Your World was just such a feel-good book. I don't know, Abby Jimenez just has a way with words. She makes me feel so loved. She makes me feel the emotions. So far from what I've noticed, the men, the love interest in her books are very much like a golden retriever kind of boyfriends, more insta loving kind of guys, and Part of Your World was just so good. I really liked it. I will say, I feel like Daniel was really quick to forgive for a second there, and I do feel like maybe the ending was just a little bit rushed, but it was a really good book. But because of that, I'm going to rate it a 4.5 out of 5. But Abby Jimenez, I am loving your books right now. Now, these books I did not read in my reading vlog, so I'm going to give a small quick synopsis. The next book that I read was Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This is a thriller book. This is, I want to say, more like an unsolved crime mystery kind of situation. If there is any book you should look up triggers for, is this one. There's so many things that happen in this book that make me want to cry because of how like dark it gets. Please look at the triggers. So just like a quick synopsis, it is about 2 sisters, Claire and Lydia. When they were younger, their oldest sister actually ended up disappearing. She just disappeared. She went missing. The family kind of just never recovered. It starts off with Claire, her husband, actually getting stabbed and dying in front of her. Like I said, it's a very like extreme book. Take care of yourself. It could be a hard read in that sense, but it is a really good book. Oh my god. If you like murder mysteries, if you like podcasts like Crime Junkies or stuff like that, this is the book to read. This is such an interesting book. I feel like I never knew what to expect. There was always something going on, and thrillers usually don't do that for me. I'm pretty good at guessing what happens, and I'm not gonna lie, I still did guess a few bits, but it just took me on a roller coaster. It is a very satisfying ending, thankfully, and I for sure needed some cuddling and love after, because it made me feel really gross and really kind of dead inside. But that's what I expect from thriller books. Like, I expect them to just shock me to my core, and this one sure did it. This is a 5 out of 5 for me. 5 stars. Really good book. I really enjoyed reading this, even when it made me feel super uncomfortable. Because I said after that book, I definitely needed to get cuddled and just feel love. I read a romance book, which is Heartless by Elsie Silver. I always know that Elsie Silver will deliver with her romance books. This is the 2nd book to the Chestnut Springs series. This is about the oldest brother, Cade, Daddy Cade, Willa, Summer's best friend from the 1st book, who comes into town to kind of like visit, and she meets Cade, the grumpy older brother who has a kid. Basically, Summer ends up recommending Willa as a nanny for Cade's son, Luke, and it just follows the romance story between Cade and Willa, and the relationship developed between Willa and Luke and Cade, and they're just like a big happy family, and it just fits so well. This is a grumpy sunshine kind of story. This book reminded me a little bit of Things We Never Got Over. I love grumpy and sunshine stories. I didn't realize that until I started reading this. I'm just like, yes, I live for this. Really good book. Like I said, Elsie Silver will deliver with the romance. It's cutesy, it's fluffy. The climax and everything from the story made sense for the type of story it was. I know there's a trope in there that people are not going to like. I enjoyed it. I feel like it made sense for the kind of book this is, with the storyline the way it was going. It was just such a good, cute, fluffy story. It is exactly what I needed after the previous book that I read, and it just made my heart melt. We love Daddy Kate. But this one is going to be a 5 out of 5 for me. I loved this book. For spicy, I would say this is a 2.5 out of 5. It gets a little bit spicier, but it's not to the point where it's all spice, no plot. We're reviewing A Court of Wings and Ruin. Like I've mentioned before, this is my second time reading ACOTAR. This is the second time going through these books. I'm not going to do too much of a synopsis because it is the third book. All I will say is that this book plays more into politics and war and peace and all of that stuff, trying to defeat the final villain with the big battle and all of those things. How I'm feeling about this book, I remember when I first read it, the first time I read it, I enjoyed it, but it was not my favorite. I kind of got a little bit bored of it, but this second time around, I just have a much higher appreciation for it, and I think it's because this formatting of this book reminded me so much of Throne of Glass. There was even a part where Rhys was telling Feyre, "You do not yield," and I screamed. I'm just like, Aelin, y'all are the same. Rhys really reminds me of Aelin. All of the like plotting without telling anyone. I know a lot of people see it as manipulative, but I've just noticed that Mass does this with a lot of her characters in general. The people who feel like they need to carry the burdens all to themselves, they always do that. They make plans and never tell anyone what they're doing. So Aelin did that so much. Sometimes I'm just like, girls, tell someone so they can help. Rhys does this all the time. He gets called out for it constantly too. I don't know, this, like I said, this book just reminded me so much of Throne of Glass. I feel like it had similar formatting, the journey, the battles, the everything. It made me remember that book, and for that reason, I just really like it so much more. Really quick thoughts as a reread.
I feel a little bit worse for Tamlin this time around. I do really think he needs a redemption arc. Again, with Nesta, even though she still pisses me off, I can see a lot of her point of view in all of this and how she felt and how she slowly started retreating into herself, setting it up for the fourth book. Not the novella, but the one after that one. Elaine, I don't have any feelings towards her. I feel like Elaine needs her own story for me to fully just be on board behind her. I don't feel anything for her. I don't like her and I don't dislike her. My heart will always break when the Suriel dies, but with the theory of, what was her name? Catalane? Something like that. With the theory of her being the Suriel, oh my god, I think I will cry more. Like, my heart just breaks for that scene. I feel like I needed to see a little bit more of Lucien. I really liked him the first time reading it. The second time around, Lucien was not really part of the books, I've noticed. He was there, but he wasn't. And it was kind of like, oh, all is forgiven because you helped, which, you know, it's true. But I wanted more Lucien time, I now realize. And then my last thought about this is, I still believe ACOTAR should have ended after the first 3 books. And then maybe had done a spin-off.
But overall, I cannot remember what I rated this in the past, but this is going to be a 5 out of 5 for me just because of how much it reminded me of Throne of Glass. I loved the battle scenes. I loved the build-up. It was so good. I just liked it a lot. I forgot how much I liked it. So I ended up wanting to read one last book because I had finished A Court of Wings and Ruin around Tuesday, Wednesday, and I wasn't getting my books until Friday, so I had a few days to spare. I ended up finally reading a book that's been in my TBR for I think about a year now as well, and that's 8,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. This is a young adult romance book. This book is about a boy who is from Norway, moves to the US around age 5, and has a next door neighbor who ends up becoming her best friend. Fast forward 2-3 years later, around the time that they're 8, the next door's neighbor, Poppy, her grandma ends up dying. Before her grandma passes away, Poppy's grandma gives Poppy a jar to fill up with 8,000 boy kisses, which basically means to fill up with kisses of her one true love, her soulmate, and she has to write down all the kisses that make her heart burst. Rune, the boy, ends up being the guy she tries to accomplish these 1,000 kisses. It kind of just follows this little romance story between Poppy and Rune. It does take a sad turn to it. It is supposed to be a sad kind of coming of age book that deals a lot with rage and grief, and it was a cute book. It's supposed to be a sad book. That's why it took me forever to actually pick it up, because I wasn't in a mood to get sad. But I wanted something a little bit different, and I wanted something that I knew I could finish pretty quickly, and a young adult book doesn't really take that long for me to read. I was unfortunately not that impressed. I actually thought the book was good. I thought the writing was beautiful. Tilly Cole does have really beautiful writing. However, I could not get past the dialogue. The dialogue really killed it for me. It was very, very, very cringy. I don't know if maybe because I'm older and I'm not the targeted audience, I just like perceived it the wrong way. It just didn't feel that natural. And I've read a few young adult books that have been really good. Again, I might just not be the targeted audience. I did get teary-eyed towards the end. The letter at the end was beautiful and it made me want to cry, but I was expecting to feel like that throughout the whole book. Seeing other people's reactions and other people's reviews, it didn't really get that feeling from me. I almost rated it a little bit higher, but unfortunately the epilogue really ruined any progress the book made for me personally. I did not like the way it ended. I would have preferred to see Rune grow from this experience. Unfortunately, we don't see that, and like I said, I feel like it ruined any progress made and it just felt kind of cheap, but that's a personal opinion. So I will be rating 8,000 Boy Kisses a 2.5 out of 5. And so yeah, those are the books that I read for May. I am very thoroughly impressed with myself. Like I said, there were so many good reads for this month. I had so many 5-star reads this month that it made it impossible for me to end up in my reading slump, and I'm so happy about that, and I'm hoping I can keep going strong for the next month. But yeah, this video is a little bit longer than expected. Hopefully in the future they won't be this long. I'm going to end it here. So thank y'all so much for watching. Have a beautiful day, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.